Let's bring in Washington correspondent Tom Dempsey and Niall Stanage, associate editor of The Hill. You know, he tackled quite a bit in a very short Q&A session, then abruptly saying, I shouldn't even be answering your questions here about this, and also giving us a preview of the G20 meetings, tackling suffering, global health security, protecting against the world's next pandemic. He seemed to evade at least one big question, kind of answering it very, very broadly. Tom, what was your impression of the president saying that he and Xi Jinping agreed on some things, but that the chiefs of staff need to talk about it later?
Well, that was a key part of this meeting, is that it really kind of establishes this base between the two countries, you know, opening a line of communication, getting it started for progress on a number of key issues. Among them, you know, we just heard in that meeting, the Ukraine war and China's connections with Russia, the North Korean nuclear threat, and Taiwan. You know, the one thing that stood out to me about that press conference we just heard from President Biden was, you know, probably the top issue we heard about was the Taiwan, you know, tension that we're seeing. You know, rewind to the summer when Nancy Pelosi visited there, and we saw after she left, you know, days of military exercises by the Chinese military and even some test missile launches. Some key quotes to come from that press conference. You know, the United States is not looking for conflict, according to the president, and that the one China policy has not changed for the U.S. And for our viewers who may not understand that, one China kind of refers to the policy that Taiwan is part of China. And again, the president saying that it respects the one China policy. So again, stability being a very key word from these talks. You know, the U.S. wanting to downplay the tension that's being seen with China right now. And again, some of the top things that stood out to me with that is that, you know, the U.S. is not looking for conflict, according to President Biden. And the president even saying that during these meetings, it came up Taiwan, and he believes that China has no imminent threat to invade Taiwan. That's where a lot of this tension we're seeing right now between the two countries is a possible invasion of Taiwan by China. But President Biden saying he believes there's no imminent threat of this invasion happening, and he believes that in this one China policy. So again, stability being a very key word through this, and this, Adrienne, to answer your original question, really just trying to start this open line of communication, with that being so crucial with just the tension between the two countries right now.
And understandably, you can't, as a world leader, express all of the details of these closed-door interactions. But he seemed to kind of evade the question about whether or not a Cold War could be avoided. Right, Niall?
Well, he expressed the belief that he doesn't think it is likely or that it is guaranteed to be the case. But then later on in that press conference, Adrienne, you will have heard him say that everything's not all going to be kumbaya. So his argument is clearly that we're somewhere between kumbaya and Cold War, at neither extreme. And there's obviously a wide gap between those two places. But overall, it seems to me that he, I agree with Tom's point. He was really arguing that the key here is communication. And he talked about the fear of misunderstanding. I think that gets to an important point about US-China relations. The fear or the apocalyptic scenario is not that they decide to go to war with each other. The fear is that there's a misunderstanding, perhaps about Taiwan, perhaps about the Ukraine war, that just sets off a sort of cycle of escalation. So the president's argument and the White House's argument is, by having these face-to-face discussions, a 3.5-hour meeting, as the president said, you can sort of defang that threat because each side knows where the other stands. That's the rationale for this meeting in the White House's perspective. That's the argument that President Biden is making, even as he is, to your point, vague about some of the specifics.
Yes, and whether or not China can be trusted in those closed-door meetings, of course, is yet to be seen. I thought it was interesting, the president saying, he's been saying America is back at home, back to the table, and back to leading the world, and that no nation is better prepared for that. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us for that conversation and for the follow-up to President Biden's remarks in Bali. We'll be right back.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.